Okay, good morning. Thank you for joining me today for the presentation of the 2023 Proposed Monroe County Budget. This is a responsible, common-sense spending plan that funds our ongoing initiatives, recognizing the economic pressures our families face, and keeps us on the path to bring Monroe back by focusing on the four pillars of our future success: public safety, public health and wellness, economic and workforce development, and infrastructure. First, thank you, Roosevelt Marius, the Executive Director and Dean of the Rochester Educational Opportunity Center, for letting us use this great facility today. Let's give him and the team a round of applause. Thank you, Roosevelt. Here, the students are given the skills they need to succeed in healthcare, the trades, business, and IT. It's a modern, up-to-date, skilled workforce is vital to our growth and prosperity. REOC is also the site where I joined community leaders to receive the Monroe County Transition Report in February of 2020. That report is a compass for my administration as we look to provide economic opportunity, ensure the safety and well-being of all residents, and create a sustainable future for our children. This budget continues the work of executing the priorities that were laid out in that plan. I want to start by acknowledging members of my core team who are joining me here today. Deputy County Executive Jeff McCann, Deputy County Executive for Health and Human Services Corinda Crosdale, my Chief of Staff Amy Grower, and Robert Franklin, Monroe County CFO and Director of Finance. Bob, where are you, Bob? There you are. Hello, Bob. Bob, you and your staff have just done an incredible job, worked very hard to put together this year's budget proposal. I really appreciate all of your work. Jennifer, Basil, the whole team, you guys have just done an incredible job on behalf of the people of Monroe County. Thank you for your work. I want to thank my senior leadership team, all my department heads who are here today. And as always, I want to thank the more than 4,500 dedicated Monroe County employees who have continued to faithfully serve our residents, providing the vital services our community depends on. I'm honored. It's truly an honor to work alongside each and every one of you. The proposed 2023 budget is a balanced and fiscally responsible plan that protects our taxpayers, ensures we continue to provide the important services and programs our residents expect, and continues our strategic investments. President Barack Obama once said, "A budget is more than just a series of numbers on a page. It's an embodiment of our values." I agree. Budgets are a statement of moral priorities. And since I took office in 2020, I have been clear about mine. My fundamental belief is that government, led the right way, can be a force for good, a convener for ideas, and a catalyst for unity. The pandemic reinforced my belief that we succeed when we all work together for a common good. And the common good demands we focus on public safety, we focus on public health and wellness, we focus on our economic and workforce development, and we invest in our infrastructure. In May, I presented my State of the County address where I laid out the plans and goals to bring Monroe back. Monroe County is in the strongest financial position it has been in for decades. Recently, each of the three major credit rating agencies has increased our credit ratings. Why does this matter? It matters because just like when your credit score goes up, your payments go down. When our credit ratings go up, our payments go down too, and that saves you money. And in this economic climate, that's a good thing. These higher credit ratings reflect faith in Monroe County's continuing economic growth and momentum. We are well on our way to bring Monroe back. Our financial strength is also recognized by the New York State Comptroller's Office, which no longer considers Monroe County to be fiscally stressed. In 2015 and 2016, Monroe County was the most fiscally stressed municipality in the entire state. Just 6 years ago, we were the worst in New York State. And today, we're not even on the list, proving that our financial footing is sound and Monroe County no longer relies on accounting gimmicks and shell games. We spend within our means and we engage in common sense, long-term planning. In broad strokes, this is a $1.3 billion budget that lowers the full value county property tax rate by 90 cents per thousand of taxable value to $7.56. That's not only the single largest tax rate decrease in 3 decades, it also results in the lowest property tax rate since the 1940s. And despite an 8.2% national inflation rate, our year-to-year budget increase is more than 3 full percentage points less than the rate of inflation. The increase in our tax levy is the lowest in nearly a decade and comes in at $10 million less than allowed by the state's property tax cap. Like you, the county is facing increased prices. We're paying more for materials, equipment, food, and energy. We're also facing a workforce crunch that requires increased starting pay and salaries to recruit and retain workers, especially those who perform critical safety-related functions like child protective services. We recognize the pressure our taxpayers face. We all face. So while keeping budget growth to 3 points less than the rate of inflation, we're providing the lowest increase in our property tax levy in nearly a decade. This budget also includes both the largest property tax rate decrease in 30 years and the lowest overall tax rate this county has seen in 3/4 of a century. This is what Moody's Investors Services said last month when it increased our credit rating. The upgrade, quote, "The upgrade reflects the county's significantly improved financial position over the past 3 years." This is my third budget. We've lowered the tax rate every year by 26 cents in 2021 and by another 7 cents in 2022. Together with this proposal for 2023, my administration has reduced this county's tax rate by a total of $1.23 per thousand, a 14% reduction in just 3 years. And we've done that while weathering a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that upended our lives and our economy. This budget also reflects a gain in sales tax revenues of $18.5 million that highlights our rebounding economic conditions. We still have our challenges, but they have not kept us from focusing on our priorities, again, public safety, public health and wellness, economic workforce development, and our infrastructure. So first, I want to talk about public safety, and when I do that, I want to recognize and thank our county sheriff, Todd Baxter, who is here with us today, and members of his team. Let's give them a round of applause. There is no more fundamental responsibility of government than to provide for public safety. This is a difficult time, especially for our residents in the city of Rochester, where we're facing an unprecedented level of violence, homicides. This budget continues our investments in the hard-working men and women of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Overall, I'm proposing to increase the sheriff's budget by $14 million, or 8.6%. This increase includes $2.6 million to more than double the size of the tactical unit, an addition of 11 road patrol deputies. We're increasing social monitoring. We don't have to look any further than Buffalo to see how online platforms and fringe social media become breeding grounds for extremism and radicalization. So we are adding nearly $700,000 to expand the Rochester Threat Advisory Committee, or ROCTAC. Under the leadership of Sheriff Todd Baxter, ROCTAC is one of the first organizations of its kind in the United States. It's a collaborative coalition of businesses, schools, colleges, social service agencies, mental health professionals, and local and federal law enforcement that partner to prevent acts of targeted violence and online radicalization.
ROCTAC, the ability to get people from different disciplines in a room when a potential targeted violence case in our community is raised to the level of the surface of some entity, and now they have something to do with it, right? And we've always heard the term see something, say something, right? Now it's see something, say something, do something. We have something that can do with that. We have ROCTAC.
When this was first talked about a few years ago, the concept of a community-wide threat assessment committee or association was wildly new. There was maybe one in the country. We were definitely one of the first ones in the country and the first one in New York State.
We got 28 organizations that get together twice a month And whatever agency presents that problem that's bubbling to the surface in their community that scares the hell out of them, that they see someone spiraling out of control, now the do something is 28 agencies sit around and say, we understand what your experiences are. Here's some possible solutions. Have you thought about this? I know a guy down the street that does that. Every meeting we leave is just incredibly rich. I'm not joking. I've been a cop for 35 years. I leave these meetings going, what did we do before these meetings?
We know that ROCTAC works, and here's an example. One of our large suburban school districts discovered a student using school computers to research firearms and make scary comments to other students. They launched an investigation and brought the parents in. The student told his parents he'd like to shoot up the school. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office activated ROCTAC. Working with ROCTAC, the school district, Strong Memorial Hospital, MCSO, the County Office of Mental Health, Villa of Hope, Hillside Children's Center, and the Monroe County Probation Department coordinated an intervention and put into place ongoing support services. With that help, this student graduated from high school, finished vocational training, got a job, and transitioned to living on their own. This could have been tragic, but ROCTAC helped to make it a success story. As the sheriff wisely pointed out, ROCTAC expands the notion of see something, say something, to see something, say something, and do something. Our increased ROCTAC funding will provide an additional 3 deputies and 4 civilian staff to help continue the important work of this initiative. That brings a total of 14 additional deputies supported by this budget proposal. We're also adding resources to the Monroe County District Attorney's Office to help expedite the prosecution of nonviolent felony cases like retail store and catalytic converter thefts. With an additional 4 assistant district attorneys, Sandra Dorley's office will be able to handle more cases more quickly. And I want to thank District Attorney Sandra Dorley for working with us on this investment. Many of our successful prosecutions hinge on the important work done by the Monroe County Medical Examiner's Office and the Monroe County Crime Lab. Therefore, we're increasing the Medical Examiner's Office budget by 12.5% to add 2 full-time toxicologists, provide competitive wages, and create a career ladder for our experienced staff. We're also boosting funding for the Crime Lab by $500,000, in part to add 2 forensic firearms examiners to help process evidence from criminal investigations. Our community continues to struggle with the opioid use and addiction. It's a problem made worse by rampant distribution of fentanyl-laced illicit drugs. This budget includes $1.5 million from the opioid lawsuit settlement fund secured by Attorney General Letitia James to expand our improving addiction coordination team. As you know, this team is running 24/7, reaching out to overdose victims and is working with them and their families and resources to support necessary for their recovery. And because there's no chance of recovery if someone succumbs to an overdose, we've placed free naloxone boxes in accessible locations throughout the community. More than 50 boxes have already been installed in public and private locations countywide. About 50 more are being installed right now as I speak, and we're going to continue distributing hundreds more in the coming weeks. Our 24/7 opioid crisis hotline, 585-753-5300, will also continue linking individuals and families to the treatment and prevention resources available in our community. Caring for the mental well-being of our veteran community is also a priority. I want to thank Veteran Service Agency Director Nick Stefanovich. Thank you, Nick, and the team, for all that you and your staff do to help our veterans get the benefits and services that they're entitled to. Just listen to this. Over the past year alone, the Veteran Service Agency staff facilitated more than $6 million in retroactive benefit payments to our local veterans. And since 2015, that agency has helped our veterans recover more than $34 million. Let's give them another hand. Just an incredible effort. So this is the second year that Monroe County has participated in the Tribe Ecotherapy Program, providing nature-based therapy to promote health, healing, and recovery for our veterans. The data is clear. 70% of Tribe participants have shown a reduction in PTSD symptoms, and I want to share with you one veteran's story.
So I got out in 2012. I had just had my second son in February, and I got out in March. So it was a quick transition into civilian life. Kind of just buried everything like it didn't exist.
There are a lot of veterans that come home and do very well and go in straight into leadership positions within the workforce. There are a significant number of veterans who come home and struggle.
A couple of years later, I ended up finding myself in a divorce. The company I was working for was closing its doors, so I was finding a new job, and all of that just kind of came, all of it, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, all of those things just kind of came back. So I started traditional therapy for many years, and back on the medications and the sleep meds, and I did that for a couple years, and then my therapist asked me if I ever heard of tri-buccal therapy, and I said no. I have not. And she's like, you want to give it a try? And I'm like, well, I've tried everything else up to this point. Like, why not?
Our focus is working with nature, integrating nature into understanding and bringing more wellness into the human condition.
We're doing all this stuff in the woods amongst other people who are going through the same thing we're going through. And so you really get that sense of not being alone. You're not the only one.
We're seeing veterans who, after a series of 3, 4, 5 months of working with us, no longer have to be on the slew of medication that they've been on for years. Veterans who have been seeing a traditional therapist for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, who have come to us and said, this is the first program I've ever been involved in where I actually feel like it's effective for me.
With Lindsay's help and my doctor's help, I transitioned off everything. So no medication anymore for me.
In the short term, we are seeing as much as a 70% reduction in PTSD symptoms for veterans who graduate from the program. We are seeing veterans being retained in the program, sticking around, and now we want to expand it.
I think the biggest thing that Tribe has done for me is given me purpose, because I didn't have it before. But being able to come out here every week and walk alongside other veterans who are struggling with the same thing I was struggling with, I guess when I go to bed at night, my heart's full, because I have that purpose again, which I didn't have for many years.
This proposed budget includes funding to double the number of cohorts that we can bring through this program, expanding our assistance for our veterans and their families, making the transition back to civilian life. In just 2 days, we will celebrate our first ever Veterans Day Parade. I encourage everyone, just come on out this Saturday, pay respects and honor the courage and sacrifice of our veterans. We're going to gather at 10:30 a.m. Saturday along South Goodman Street, Highland and South Avenues, and I encourage you to go to monroecounty.gov for the full details of the parade route. Building on the success of this year, we're going to make our Veterans Day Parade permanent by increasing the Veteran Service Agency budget by another $50,000 to make the 2023 Veterans Day Parade even bigger and better. So thank you all very much for that. This proposed budget also increases our support for early intervention services and preschool special education. We're adding 2 bilingual health service coordinators to focus on assisting families navigate how to get their children the services that they need. And we're boosting the preschool special education reimbursement rates by 5% under this budget, as I've done each of the 2 prior budget years, fulfilling my commitment to increase those rates by a total of 15%. We're also committing, give that applause. Help our kids. We're also committing $1.4 million to continue our work with Together Now to integrate community-based organizations into our public assistance application and eligibility processes. This was a key recommendation of the Commission on Racial and Structural Equity, the Race Commission. Families and individuals should not have to be burdened by navigating a support system that wasn't designed with their needs in mind. Our community integration model will let people reach out to organizations that they already trust, that are right there in their neighborhoods, to get the help that they need. We're bringing services to people, not asking people to come to us. At the height of the pandemic, Monroe County faced an unemployment rate of 17%. Today, that rate is 3.2%, not just lower than the statewide rate of 4.3%, but also 1.4% lower than the unemployment rate when I first took office in January of 2020. Our economy is rebounding. We're bringing Monroe back, but we still have work to do. The biggest concern I hear from our local employers is that there aren't enough workers to fill the jobs that we have available. This budget proposal ensures our workforce development efforts continue, like construction of the Applied Technology Center at Monroe Community College. This $35 million facility will bring state-of-the-art training for high-demand jobs like automotive technician, precision tooling, solar panel technicians, and more to the Brighton campus. We're also continuing our commitment to diversity and inclusion. This year, we created our first ever county-wide language access plan. This budget adds funding to provide additional translation and interpretation services to make sure that every resident of Monroe County, no matter the language they speak, has access to every service this county has available, be that workforce training, small business assistance, or anything else our county has to offer. Our County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency, COMIDA, continues its work helping to attract and retain businesses, like the Life Cycle Project in Rochester, a more than $500 million investment that creates 277 good-paying jobs in the technology sector. Or the expansion of Alliance Precision Plastics on Lee Road, a company that was considering consolidating its operations to North Carolina. Now, with COMIDA's assistance, Alliance will retain 200 jobs here and is going to create 35 more. COMIDA has had record years in both 2021 and 2022 in terms of new business investments and job creation. All told, COMIDA-assisted projects during these 2 years account for $2 billion in investments, creating more than 2,700 new jobs and retaining nearly 1,000 others. That is great success. But COMIDA also recognizes the need to modernize to meet today's challenges. A major challenge ensuring that we have that workforce training available to connect people with the jobs that COMIDA is assisting and bringing here and helping to create. So taking its fees, it's collecting from businesses, and reinvesting those dollars directly back into the people of this county by supporting programs like the Young Adult Manufacturing Training Employment Program, known as YAMTEP, and the Multi-Craft Apprenticeship Training Program, known as MAP. And COMIDA did that by starting with a $2.5 million investment, with a portion of the fees replenishing that fund moving forward. The MAP program that I just spoke of provides training and job site experience with a focus on helping people learn the skills they need to land these jobs that pay well, offer opportunities for advancement, and help build generational wealth. So let's hear from one of the MAP students.
Worked 16 jobs in 9 months. So, I know what a job is, and I was tired of working a job. So, heard about the MAP program, and I said nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So, give it a shot.
Basically what we do is we give folks a chance who never would have had a chance in the trades. The trades have long been a closed door policy, but we are trying to get more color into the union construction trades.
Talking to somebody who went to school for culinary, did that, didn't like that. Went to school to be a certified arborist, did that, didn't like that. Also worked the 9-to-5 jobs that were dead-end jobs, and I didn't like that. I didn't like not having time for my family, not being able to take them out, not being able to do anything.
Having a job, you can come, go, show up late, not show up, it doesn't really matter. There's no real commitment to a job, as opposed to a career where you actually study for that field. You get the education, you get the job experience, you have a skill set that can never be taken away. We teach them the work ethic and the culture that you're going to experience on the construction sites.
You're learning self-discipline. Some people don't even have that. You have to be mature enough to understand that. If I need to be to work at 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock is 7 o'clock. But you don't need to be there at 7 o'clock. You need to be there before 7 o'clock. If you're there on time, you're late. So that's what you learn.
They see the life change now. People who come in, they get into the apprenticeship and they're working every day and they're starting to get those checks and see that it's a completely different world for them now.
You have an opportunity to leave a lineage for your family. Doing something and saying, hey, you see that over there? I built that. You know, I do it all the time with my kids. I take them, we drive around like your dad was working on that right there. Being able to say, hey, look, I did this, you know. I mean, that's an exceptional feeling.
We have a number of students from the MAP program and the leadership of the MAP program here. Let's give them all a round of applause if you guys want to stand and be recognized. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Kareem. Thank you, Christopher. Christopher's story is one of the many we're going to hear from after this investment with MAP. Again, we cannot bring Monroe back unless everyone has a seat at the table, unless everyone can participate and has access to economic opportunity. And that also goes for our arts and cultural organizations. In Monroe County, our arts industry supports more than 1,500 full-time and 2,100 part-time employees, and it pumps more than $100 million into our economy every year. A healthy arts community is something employers look for when they're scoping out new sites for expansion or for new investments. Under prior budgets, I've consistently expanded county funding for our small and mid-sized arts groups. 2023 is no different. This budget boosts that funding from $500,000 to $1 million. And there are 3 smaller organizations I'm pleased to announce will receive at least $60,000 in annual county funding going forward. The Hochstein School of Music, the Avenue Black Box Theater, and the world-renowned Garth Fagan Dance. And we are pleased to be joined today by the one and only Garth Fagan. Garth, thank you. Garth Fagan not only puts Rochester on the map across the country, but across the world. With your choreography and the leadership you have in the arts community, I want to thank you for the work that you do. And I also want to recognize Rena Golden from the Avenue Black Box Theater. Thank you, Rena, for being here and the work that you are doing to bring arts to our community, and I want to thank you for that as well. So thank you, Rena. When it comes to our infrastructure, 2023 is about concentrating on the projects we already have underway, and it also is about protecting the assets that we have. I talked a little already about ATEC Center at MCC. The renovations and upgrades at Frontier Field, soon to be Innovative Field, continues because the Rochester Red Wings and Rochester Community Baseball are part of the fabric of this community and have been for the past 145 years. So again, I want to thank the New York State delegation, Governor Kathy Hochul, for recognizing the importance of this project by committing state funds to help us get it done. We celebrated the grand opening of the beautiful new Trailside Cafe at the Seneca Park Zoo back in July. And man, there is so much more work to come as we transform the Seneca Park Zoo into a world-class zoo. The $121 million investment includes a new front entry complex and conference center, one of the largest indoor tropics complexes of its kind, and a 220,000-gallon aquarium right here in Monroe County. This is another, again, I want to give another shout out and thanks to the New York State delegation, our members of the Senate and Assembly, and for Governor Hochul for partnering with us and acknowledging how important the zoo is as an asset here to our community. Another of our great assets is the men and women who work so hard every day to deliver the excellent services the people of Monroe County expect. These dedicated employees are our human infrastructure, and they deserve as much investment as our physical infrastructure. And that hasn't been something Monroe County historically has done. We need to right the wrongs of the past. That's why over the past year, we've implemented across-the-board pay wage increases for our county employees. We instituted a $3,000 recruitment and retention payment, and those increases are all over and above contractual increases. The labor market is tight. Businesses and governments are competing for the same pool of employees. especially when it comes to our social service workers, whose pay was not competitive compared to the state and other counties for similar positions. It's why we further increased salaries for these positions. We launched an aggressive hiring campaign. Social workers, Department of Human Services workers may see their jobs as a calling, but they still need to make a livable wage, as every day they literally are out in the community changing people's lives. And I want to share with you one example.
I had a client who is 19, already has 2 kids and pregnant with another one. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm looking at the application wrong. So I call her, verify this is the person. And I asked her, I said, where do you see yourself, 5 years from now, a year from now? What's your plan? And she kind of just looked at me like, wow, no one has ever asked me that. And I was like, I need to know what's your plan. I said, because it's gonna be a little rough out here. Not saying that, you can't achieve anything, but I wanna know what is your plan. And she said no one had ever asked her that. So we really had a one-on-one conversation, just really mapping out what it was she wanted to do. Fast forward, I wanna say like 4 years later, I'm in Walmart and this lady comes up to me and she goes, do you remember me? I'm like, face looks familiar, but I don't know why. I was that young lady who you sat down with and you remember you asked me what was my plan? I go, oh yeah, I remember you. I was like, so how's everything going? She was like, I graduated from MCC, I'm a nurse now. And just to hear her story, and she said, I never had anyone to take the time and have that conversation with me to see what was my plan. And she shared a lot with me where I was like, wow, I didn't even know that simple, I'm sorry, I'm getting teary-eyed, that simple conversation inspired her to do more. So I enjoy doing this work because working for the county government, it's a thankless job. You do it because your heart is in it.
Employees like Ebony. Ebony's actually now a manager in our Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The work that Ebony, her coworkers do is very important every day, and they deserve to be able to advance their careers. They deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, and they deserve to be paid fairly. In September, I signed the county's climate action plan into law, with the goal of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. This fulfilled a promise I made to combat the impacts of climate change in our region, securing a healthier future for our children and creating a healthier, more equitable, and more resilient community for all of us. I thank the Climate Action Plan Advisory Committee for all of your hard work creating Phase 1 of the plan. Phase 1 targets emissions from county-run sites, facilities, and operations. To help us stay on track and meet our goals, this budget includes the creation of an environmental quality office within the Department of Environmental Services. Another challenge to the county's infrastructure is the threat to intrusion by cyber hackers and online criminals. Jennifer Cusey and her information services team, they keep the operations running to protect important financial and taxpayer information. And I want to thank them for the work that they do. But a day of hands-on training earlier this year for our county staff, we were at the RIT conference center. It reinforced the need to reduce the risk of cyber attacks and prepare for our worst case scenarios. We must take bold action before cyber criminals break in. To better protect our critical systems, the proposed budget includes funding for a new Chief Information Security Officer who would be responsible for strategic countywide administration of the county's cybersecurity program. In summary, this proposed 2023 budget is smart, responsible, it's forward-thinking, and it's a common-sense plan. Monroe County is on the strongest financial footing it's been on in 2 decades. This budget proposal lowers the county property tax rate by 90 cents per thousand, delivering the county's lowest rate since Harry Truman was in the White House. By holding expenditure increases to 3 points below inflation, this budget also recognizes the financial stress our community faces. At the same time, it recognizes the critical importance, especially now, of maintaining the services and programs our residents expect. This budget continues our work to bring Monroe back. It funds our police and makes other key investments in public safety, public health and wellness, our economic and workforce development, and in restoring and rebuilding the critical community infrastructure that contributes to our quality of life. As I said in my State of the County address, we look to the future, a re-envisioned future that lifts every resident in every corner of Monroe County, makes Monroe County a destination for entrepreneurs and businesses, ensures equitable opportunities for our residents, and positions Monroe County as the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And this spending plan is a blueprint for that future. Thank you. God bless you.